Self-improvement is masturbation. Now, self-destruction is you.
All right. So that's the intro for the video. Quick little clip from a movie you might have, I don't know, you may or may not have heard of it. It's called Fight Club. Pretty good movie, you know, pretty solid. And it may or may not be like one of the greatest movies of all time. But anyway, we're going to be analyzing what that famous line, right? Self-improvement is masturbation. Because I'm a huge fan of Fight Club, and also I'm a huge fan of self-improvement. I mean, that's what this entire channel is about. And so do those two things contradict one another? Do I like all of Fight Club except for that part right there? We'll go over that in this stream here, okay? When it comes to Fight Club, I've actually seen, first of all, one of my favorite movies of all time. I've seen it multiple times. I see it multiple times per year, as a matter of fact. Because it's a movie that's just so rich with so many different themes. So a lot of people, there's actually YouTube videos that you can watch on this, some very good ones. A lot of people think that it has a lot of Nietzschean themes, which it does. But in my opinion, the reason that people think it has a lot of Nietzschean themes is because of this guy. Because this guy was heavily inspired by Nietzsche, Carl Jung. And I think it has more Jungian themes than anything, but the two kind of intertwine. And Chuck Palahniuk, the author, as far as I know, he doesn't really, I don't think he really talks about where his inspirations came from in that book. He does from his own personal life, because it was a book before it became a movie. But I don't know if he really talks about Nietzsche and Jung that much, but clearly he's very much inspired by those guys. All right. So let's dive into the topic of self-improvement is masturbation. Well, what does that mean? So first of all, the entire line from the book, which kind of got cut off from the movie, it was a circumstantial thing. He said, self-improvement is masturbation. Now self-destruction, implying like, okay, well, self-improvement is masturbation, but self-destruction, on the other hand, that's something different. As in, like, that's actually something to strive for. So what does that mean? Well, if we look at it from a Jungian standpoint, Carl Jung has this idea of something called a persona, right? So a persona is, in Jungian terms, is a face that you share with the world that isn't actually you. You kind of contrive this face in order to fit into society, in order for people to not judge you. And you also have the ego. The ego is your superficial idea of who you believe yourself to be, right? So if your name is, Steve, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of a name. If your name is Steve, for example, when somebody says Steve, what is the idea that comes into your mind? Is Steve cool? Is Steve a loser? Is Steve just an average Joe? Who do you believe yourself to be? And so for me, Kevin. Who's Kevin, right? I have my own ideas on who I believe Kevin to be. So that's the ego. Now, you have the persona. So you have the ego of who you believe yourself to be. And then you have the persona of who you want other people to think that you are. And that is dictated by societal norms. That's dictated by what people tell about you. And usually these two things, they're kind of related, but sometimes they're in conflict with one another. Right? And sometimes your persona of who you act like in the world in order to be a good little boy in society, sometimes that can actually bleed over into you believing certain ideas about yourself that aren't originally yours. They were all outside influences. And sometimes that's okay, because some rules that society has, such as like, hey, you probably shouldn't like rape, murder, kill people and steal shit, you know? Human beings, naturally, we are not, I think deep down to our core, that we have that spark of divinity that makes every human being valuable. But, you know, we're still descendant from animals. We are animals. So we still have that very selfish side of ourselves that is just going to want to rape, kill, and steal to get what they want. So in order to sort of quell that, we have built this construct called society. We have had certain rules and norms and guidelines that you need to follow, that we tell young kids from a young age that they grow up with that. And so they follow those rules naturally. They have a certain face that they show to the world in order to be like, yes, I'm a good contributing member of society. And sometimes that's good, right? Because again, it keeps society civil. If that wasn't there and it was just a free for all, then I mean, hey, some people think the world would be a great place, but me studying human nature, it's probably not. The vast majority of human history has been very bloody and terrible and not so nice. So society has its place, but it comes at a cost, right? Because in a way, what you end up doing when you create all these rules is those rules are going to fit well for some people and they're not going to fit well for other people. And because they don't fit well for other people, in order for them to function in the society, they need to actually make sure that their persona, who they have other people believe them to be, is different than who they actually are. And that disparity between the two of you acting a certain way because you want to be a good boy in society and how you actually feel, your true thoughts, if the disparity is too much between those two things, it causes an immense amount of suffering, My homeland of Japan is a perfect example of that. In the society of Japan, they actively encourage you not to be yourself. They actually think being yourself is cringe. They literally have a saying the nail that sticks up is the one that gets hammered down. Yeah, they actually teach you that in school. Okay, it's fucking crazy. Literally saying, hey, don't stand up and be an outlier. Just get in line. And so because of that, is it a coincidence that it has the highest suicide rate in the world? Absolutely not. It's not a coincidence at all. Because everybody has to put on this fake persona at the expense of who they really are. And that disparity becomes so much, it becomes so painful that they don't even know who they are. They lose purpose and meaning and they just kill themselves. It's fucking awful. And so I'm bringing this all back together. Don't worry. Because I want to dive into what is self-destruction. Like, what is Tyler Durden talking about, self-destruction? You look at it from a Jungian standpoint, self-destruction is destroying that persona. And that's basically what Fight Club is all about, is a bunch of modern men, more specifically as written for Gen X, but us Gen Yers, millennials, and Gen Zers can definitely relate to this, where we're told that we need to be a certain way. We're raised in a certain way, right? Do well in school, go to college, get a good job, get a wife, have some kids. Yeah, some of those things I think are good, but it's not for everybody, And nowadays, the norms are even different. Nowadays, people actually are going the opposite way. They're saying, actually, having kids is bad. They're bad for the environment. And but you should still go to school and rack up tons of debt. And yeah, because that's just what you're supposed to do, bro. Get in line, bro. So people follow that. And unfortunately, it works out for some, but for a lot of people, it makes them fucking miserable. And so the entire sort of idea of Tyler Durden, because he's actually I'm going to do a way more in-depth analysis on this, but Tyler Durden is the personification. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, I'd be very surprised. I'm sorry. But Tyler Durden is the personification of the narrator's shadow. Now, what is the shadow? I talk about this a decent amount on this channel, but I'll kind of give the overview of it. The shadow is everything that you have repressed from a young age in order to fit into society, in order to maintain that persona that I just talked about. So basically, and this happens in school, for example, where, you're running around being a young boy, just being kind of a reckless asshole. And then the teacher says, hey, Johnny, you fucking idiot, go sit down, be more like those girls. If you want to go to the bathroom, you have to raise your hand and ask permission. You can't just go. And so from a young age, while we're very impressionable, our minds are very impressionable, society, the culture, the people around us very much are shaping our young minds in order to, fit in. And so in order to stay with that, we invent that persona. even if it doesn't feel natural to us. And so all of the things, in order to maintain this persona, all of the things that we sort of give up, they get put into the unconscious mind, what Carl Jung more specifically called the shadow. Things like being aggressive, things like being sexual, things like being, speaking your mind. A lot of it is culture dependent, but in the West, we can all sort of relate to that. All of those things they don't just go away. Those emotions don't just go away. Those feelings don't just go away. They get repressed into your unconscious mind. And your unconscious mind is like 90-something% of your brain. Only like 5% is your thinking brain, your prefrontal cortex. Something very small like that. So the vast majority of our mind is our unconscious mind. And so the shadow, what ends up happening is if you don't try to look at it objectively, you don't try to look back and see what are the things that I've repressed, it comes up at ugly times and it completely explodes out of nowhere. And you end up doing something called shadow projection, where you end up projecting your deep insecurities, a lot of times you might not even be aware of, that have been repressed since childhood, onto other people and demonizing them as a result. A lot of times it comes in the form of envy, right? So anyway, all this stuff, it gets really, really complicated. But the reason that it gets complicated is because it wouldn't be complicated if there wasn't a persona, if there wasn't a mask that we had to wear in order to fit in. And so Fight Club is all about destroying that mask, destroying the idea of who you believe yourself to be, because who you believe yourself to be wasn't even dictated by you. It was dictated by other people from the time you were a young age. So that's what Tyler Durden means by self-destruction. Take off that mask, destroy it, do whatever. That's what it is. And so what does he mean by, so that's what he means by self-destruction, right? From a Jungian standpoint. Very important to know. Now, what about the self-improvement part, right? Because this whole entire channel is self-improvement. So, you could make the argument, oh, Kevin, I understand why you're in support of the self-destruction part, especially if you use this guy as a, there's a little bit of a glare there, especially if you use this guy as a reference. But what about the self-improvement part? That doesn't really make much sense. Why is self-improvement masturbation? See, here's the thing with that. The issue is, and I see this a lot online, unfortunately. So let me back up a little bit. The most effective form of self-development, self-help, is shadow work, by far. As a matter of fact, I think it's the only form of contending with your shadow, contending with your repressed emotions, bringing them out into the open, looking at them objectively, and then trying to decide, okay, well, is this thing that I repressed, does it belong in there? Was society right to demonize it? Or should I bring it back and then try to ingratiate it into my ego? Something Carl Jung called individuating, right? Bringing the best parts of your unconscious into well-functioning whole. That's basically what self-development is. Facing your fears, overcoming them. Facing your insecurities, overcoming them. That's basically shadow work in the most reductionist way possible, all right? So, but here's the thing. A lot of people don't want to do that because it's very scary. But that is true self-improvement. That's true self-development, where you're actually overcoming the scary things and becoming resilient and strong as a result of that. Unfortunately, a lot of people, when they do self-improvement, it's a cope. They're actually not contending with the things that they're afraid of. In fact, a lot of times they're doing the exact opposite. So let's say, for example, I'll tell you guys a story about myself. Originally when I first went to the gym when I was 14 years old, it was a really scary thing for me. So, because I was like really nervous, I needed to like go with my dad and stuff. I was like a really shy, insecure kid, and especially in middle school and high school, until like my senior year. That's like really that's when I finally came out of my shell. So at first, the gym was great because it helped me build confidence, all these other types of things. I felt way better. And it was amazing, especially up to the time where I was like 18 years old. It literally changed my life. But what ended up happening, especially when everybody went to college, I decided not to go to college to try to take my swing at becoming an entrepreneur. What ended up happening is a lot of the social shyness and social anxiety, for lack of a better word, that I had back when I was in high school, it kind of came back up again because I was constantly sort of like in isolation, right? Everybody was off going to college, following the normie path, for lack of a better word, while I was just sitting there trying to create like businesses and stuff, mostly failing. The vast majority of the time failing, especially in the early years. So I just became more and more of a hermit, you know? And it's weird because socializing is like a muscle. If you don't do it for a while, then it starts to be similar to the gym. If you don't go to the gym for a while, your muscles start atrophying. So the same exact thing happened to me with socializing. And I knew that. And it was like scary for me to start socializing again. And so I just sort of reverted to the gym, reverted to self improvement from that standpoint, and only just hit it hard in the gym, and that's it. Meanwhile, I understood deep down that I still had I had to go socialize. I had to go out and try to meet people, not just girls, but just guys in general, like anybody. Because at that point, all of my friends, they were just like on a different path. It was just kind of hard to relate to. We were kind of drifting apart. I basically had like no friends when I was like 19, 20 years old because I was just like a hermit, always just trying to start businesses and shit. I had no tribe, whatever. It was like, it's pretty lonely. And so I started to use self-improvement, my whole thing of being like, well, yeah, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm starting businesses. I'm like, I'm better than everybody. But it was a cope. It was a cope. It was. Because yes, although that part is important, I was also using that as an excuse to not actually look at these insecurities that had come back up again, my insecurity of socializing. My shy middle school, high school self had come back and I couldn't contend with that. And so I used conveniently me being obsessed with the gym as an excuse to just go to the gym all the time and be like, yeah, I'm just outworking my competition, bro. When in reality, I wasn't actually facing my fears because the gym, I'm good at the gym. I was really good at the gym and I still am. Passionate as fuck about it. I fucking love it. Like that's my forte, man. Like if there was like a stat chart or whatever of like abilities or a skill chart in terms of like the gym, it'd be like a 9 or a 10 out of 10. In terms of socializing, it would have been like a 1 or a 2 out of 10. And so instead, what I just ended up doing is I just kept working on the 9 out of 10, something I was already good at, rather than not actually working on the thing I wasn't good at. Because the thing that I wasn't good at would have required me to face my fears, to do shadow work, to do the tough work of destroying my persona, taking off that mask. And so instead, I just kept doing self-improvement, but I was only improving the parts I was already good at. And unfortunately, that ends up happening with self-improvement as a whole. A lot of the people that you see on YouTube or anywhere else, although their intentions might be good, unfortunately, themselves and their audience, they tend to just only work on the things that they're already kind of good at, right? They tend not to work on the things that they really fucking suck at. Because to work on the things that you really fucking suck at, that is forcing yourself to look into your insecurities. Because I'm telling you, when it's staring you in the face as something that you're not good at, you're not gonna like it. It makes you very uncomfortable. You fucking hate it. You just deny it. You start to be in denial. You're like, oh, I don't even care about that thing anyway. It's kind of like here's a perfect example, right? You play somebody in basketball, let's say 1-on-1, and you like basketball. You're pretty passionate about it, but you like some other sports too. And then this one guy, you just play 1-on-1 with him. He just destroys you every time. And because he destroys you every time, you're just like, oh, well, I don't even care about basketball anyway. But, baseball, on the other hand, that's a real sport. Right? Why do people do that? It's cope. It's a cope because they don't want to contend with the idea that they might suck at something, because then they have to take a deep look at themselves. And so that's what Tyler Durden means when he says self-improvement is masturbation. Now, self-destruction, on the other hand, right? The implication being that self-destruction is actually destroying the persona, which I believe to be like actual true self-improvement, is way better than self-improvement of you just improving things you're already good at. So I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater with that statement. Because in my opinion, what he's talking about as self-improvement, what a lot of people talk about as self-improvement, isn't real self-improvement. It's just masturbation. What is masturbation? It's you just being alone with yourself, not sharing it with anybody else. You just being hedonistic or hedonic, I should say, with yourself, not taking any risks. Isn't that kind of what you're doing if you just work on the things you're already really good at the expense of you not working on the things that you really suck at? That by definition is a pretty masturbatory exercise, wouldn't you say? Because you're not actually solving the real problem. You're procrastinating. You're procrastinating. You guys know that word, procrastination plus masturbation. If you ever had to study for a test or you had, and you just were procrastinating for it, a lot of times you end up jerking off a lot. I don't know why that happens with us guys, but it just does. There's something about you not facing your fears that ends up becoming this masturbatory fantasy that doesn't even actually do anything. You're just lying to yourself that you're improving when you're actually not. Because in order to improve, you have to face your fears. You have to face your shadow. You have to destroy the persona that has been stuck on your face since the time that you were young. And it's glued heavy on there, man. The more and more that you age, the more and more that it cements on your face. And the more painful it's going to be to just tear that mask off and throw it on the ground and reinvent yourself and actually be who you're meant to become. Actually try to create your own values. Actually try to be the man that you want to be. You can't do that if you're just sitting around jerking off and masturbating to the idea of you already, the mask. You're just doing a bunch of different things without taking the mask off. It's pointless. You only working on things that you're already good at what's the point, man? The whole entire point of self-improvement is to work on things you're not good at and to become better at them. And then once you get good at them and really good at them, then you find other things you're not good at, and then you improve on those too. And that's when things get interesting. And this is why the number one thing that you should judge yourself on, you should judge other men on, is their relationship with fear. Are they courageous? Because if you are a courageous man who is willing to actually do what it takes to overcome fear, by definition, you're always going to be afraid of things that you don't know, right? It's like, why are we afraid of the dark as kids? Because the dark is a vast ocean of nothingness. We can't see anything. So naturally, we're just going to be afraid of it. But when you're trying to improve aspects of yourself that you don't even know of, or improve at things that you know you suck at, there's a sea of unknown possibilities that might happen as with you trying to do that, right? And so by definition, that is going to bring about this feeling of fear. Whereas opposed to if you just work on things that you're already good at, that's predictable. You're like, oh, I probably know what this is going to happen here. It's not as scary. So if you're courageous enough, Aristotle believed this, Nietzsche believed this, that these virtues, especially Nietzsche had way less virtues that he talked about than Aristotle, but courage was definitely one of them. If you have the courage to live dangerously, Nietzsche said that all the time, live dangerously. If you live dangerously, if you are willing to overcome your fear and do what it takes, you have limitless possibilities of what you can accomplish in life, man. And what's cool is modern psychology backs this up. The more and more, it's a process called automaticity. If you're on my 30-day wait list and you watch the videos I send you, you'll know what I'm talking about. But the more and more that you practice things that are scary, it's like downloading a software into your brain. Once the software is fully loaded up after a span of anywhere from 20 18 to 66 days. It depends on really how hardcore you go with it. So I designed my 30-day challenge to try to be like, intense enough that it's 30 days, but not so intense that it's like only 18 days and you just go crazy because it's like too much work. But those difficult things, those scary things become easy because it's a new software downloaded into your brain. And once you download that software into your brain, then you can try to find other things that you're not good at and try to become better at them. And then eventually you become so good at them that it just becomes automatic. It's another software in your brain. You guys see, you guys can understand how, like, if you really focus on self-development, self-improvement, you can become so good at so many different things. But then also at the same time, if you have a bad relationship with fear, if you run away from fear every time, the same way some guys will just constantly be elevating because they're always like learning new things, they're always overcoming their insecurities, always overcoming their fears. If you have a bad relationship with fear, man, the opposite's going to happen. None of that stuff will happen. You'll just stagnate. Not only will you stagnate, you will decline. Because it's really scary to think about, guys. I'm not trying to scare you, but as you age, you lose neuroplasticity, where your brain kind of hardens, your ideas harden. That's why it's been shown that I think once you're like 40 years old or something like that, the likelihood of you changing your political positions, for example, is like zero. The likelihood of you changing your worldview on things is like zero because your brain is just like cement at that point. So there is a timeline for self-improvement. It's one of the reasons why that I'm like so obsessed with it, is because I know based on the research, I'm like, I don't know if I could like keep self-improving at this rate like a decade from now. I'm 28 now. I'll be 29 in like 6 months. So I basically have like another 10 years left before like I basically like lose my neuroplasticity. You could still improve on stuff at that age too, but it becomes much tougher. So the vast majority of you guys that watch this watch this channel, you guys are young, right? Take advantage of that young time, man. Because the younger that you are, the faster that you can download these softwares into your brain. And the only thing stopping you is fear. Easier said than done, I understand. But if you have the right strategy to make sure that you are overcoming fear in the proper way, you have the right environment of people around you to help push you, but not push you so much to the point where you just go over the brink and you're just fucking crazy, right? That's exactly what you need to do. That's why it's important to study psychology. It's important to study philosophy. It's important to have mentors. Hopefully I can fill that role with some of you guys, whether it be through just my YouTube channel or, some of you guys are coaching clients of mine. Some of you guys are going to be joining the 30-day challenge soon. And even if it's not just me, like, okay, in your immediate environment, who are the people that you are around? Are they courageous people that are always trying new things, that are pushing you? And then in turn, you can push them. And it just becomes this like nice positive feedback loop of everybody just trying to make each other better. Or do you have a bunch of friends and unfortunately sometimes family that they let fear run their lives? They never face fear head on and just try to overcome it. And they just react to their environment. That's the story of most people, man. It's sad, but that's the way it is. So if you're one of the few people that not only is reactive to the certain situations that he has, you don't just accept the mask that's put on you. And you're able to take off that mask and try to create your own path. It's going to be very difficult because you're going to be facing fear head on all the fucking time, man. I'm going to go a little bit meta with you guys. I do a lot of debates and stuff now, right? I'm basically like, I think highly of myself when it comes to debate, but I feel like I'm the debate king of the manosphere, okay? I'm biased here, but I feel like I've never lost a debate while in the manosphere, and I'm a pretty self-critical person. So if I did genuinely think I thought I lost, then I would say it. I'm telling you guys, the first few debates I did, because I've been doing debates now for a little over a year now, dude, I was scared shitless. I was so scared. Dude, my debate with Donovan, before I did my debate with him, I felt I was going to throw up. I couldn't sleep the entire night before. because it was just such a new thing for me. But then I just kept doing it. And now I'll just like roll out of bed and have a debate. I'll literally just, like my debate stream of Kevin Ray Wilder debates haters. I literally just texted Alice like, "Hey, you want to do this thing?" He's like, "Yeah, let's do it tonight." I was like, "Oh, yeah, let's do it." I wasn't even nervous before going in. It's because it's a new thing. It's an automatic thing, right? Same thing with streaming. Streaming, like, and this is one of the reasons I'm doing the 30-day challenge for myself too, for streaming. Because yes, I've been doing streaming and stuff intermittently here and there, but I'd always kind of like overthink it. I'd be like, "Oh, the stream has to be perfect, it needs to be this, and that." I'd still be kind of like nervous before the camera goes on. And then now, because I'm doing it every single fucking day, it's a new software in my brain. I'm just like, this is what I do now. Like, I don't get nervous at all before going on stream. I don't overthink it at all. I just turn the camera on and go, because I trust that I've done the work. Previous Kevin has done the work to put those softwares in my mind to be able to just turn on the camera and just go. And this is something that you guys can learn how to do too. You can. I think one of the most powerful things, like we talk about the self-image and stuff, right? The ego, who you believe yourself to be, the persona that society tells you to be. The more that you put yourself on camera, the more that the less you are in your own head. And you start to see, oh, this is a real person. And you can start to almost sort of develop a new self-identity when you're constantly on camera and stuff. Got to be careful though. That's with the caveat of you authentically being yourself when you're on camera, because you can easily just start playing an act as well. But it's a lot tougher to do when you stream, for example, right? If you're streaming like this, it's hard to put up an act when you're live like this hours at a time. And so funny enough, part of my 30-day challenge is making you guys all YouTubers. No, I'm joking. That's not it. But I do during the 30-day challenge, and I do this with my clients right now as well, is I have them vlog their day. And one of the reasons that I have them vlog their day is I want them to talk, learn how to talk, learn to be comfortable in their own shoes. And then after that, I tell them to play the video back. Like, watch what you just said. And then the vast majority of guys, is a good test of how you actually view yourself. The vast majority of you guys, I'm willing to guess, when you play back the video of you talking, you're probably cringing like crazy. You're like, "Oh, my voice sounds like that. Why am I? Oh, that's so weird. Like, oh, I don't like what I'm saying here. Cringe." So naturally, a lot of us have a bad self-image of ourselves, because the idea of who we think we are it doesn't match up with the reality. So that's one thing. And this is something a lot of YouTubers don't talk about. Maybe they're not even aware of it. But in terms of your success with socializing with, women, whatever, even business, sales, job interviews, if you're used to being on camera, seeing yourself on camera, you like what you see. And it can't just be pictures and photos, like selective, like whatever. It actually has to be you talking to the camera and playing it back and be like, this guy's pretty cool. I don't cringe every single time I see him talking. That is a test, and it shows you that you actually think highly of yourself. And some of you guys might be thinking, "Oh, that makes you narcissistic." No, it's actually the opposite of narcissism, because narcissists are so insecure in themselves that they need external validation from other people. This is actually like true self-love, right? When you're able to do that, especially if you start off being cringe in your own mind, and then as time goes on, you're like, "I'm not cringe anymore. I actually kind of like what I have to see. I'm actually pretty cool." And this is why I say that self-improvement will help you in your dating life way more than any other generic dating advice. Because the goal of self-improvement, in a way, from a dating context, is to get to the point where just be yourself becomes the best advice you could possibly have. And you don't have to do any of that cringy bullshit of like, what's the line? What do I say? How do I turn on the attractions with it? But people want to do that because it's a more expedient path, because it's more masturbatory. They're not actually solving the deep-rooted problems. The deep-rooted problems of they don't actually believe themselves to be cool. They don't actually believe themselves to be an attractive man. They don't believe themselves to be worthy. In order for you to feel yourself to be worthy, you have to destroy that mask, man. That's what Tyler Durden was talking about. Fake self-improvement is masturbation, which is most self-improvement, unfortunately. Self-improvement. Self-destruction, on the other hand, is real self-improvement. That's the way that I kind of like to, if I had to sort of redefine what he was saying there. Because that's the actual intention behind his words. So I'll repeat it again. Fake self-improvement is masturbation. Self-destruction, on the other hand, is real self-improvement. That's the way that I look at it.